Welcome to AUSA Spouse Voice for a Simpler PCS, a live series from AUSA Family Readiness designed to give you tips, resources, and best practices to add to your military life toolkit. I'm Yvonne Coombes. I'm one of the co-founders of Operation Deploy Your Dress, and today I'm sharing some strategies for maintaining and growing your business and nonprofit from afar. We want this to be a conversation, so please post your questions, comments, thoughts in the section below, and by commenting you'll also be entered to win a fun prize during next week's episode. So I'll start off with a little bit about Operation Deploy Your Dress. Operation Deploy Your Dress began at Fort Bliss back in December of 2015. We were a few military wife friends that wanted to do a dress drive to collect dresses to give to members of our units, of our sponsors' units, so that we could boost the attendance of military balls and other formal events. So we had some balls coming up, we wanted to boost the attendance, and we saw that a lot of times people couldn't attend these balls because they couldn't afford to attend the balls. So we thought if we could cut part of that cost, then maybe people would come. So we decided that we would do a dress swap. And dress swaps are not unique. It's not a unique idea that we had, but when we decided to come together and do this dress swap together, we collected over 5,000 dresses. We were able to help many, many, many people, not only in our units, but across Fort Bliss. And we decided to see how we could branch this into other directions. It was very easy for us to do, well, not very easy, but it was easier for us to do while we were at Fort Bliss and the 5 of us were together living in a 3-block radius of each other, and working together was pretty easy because we had access to one another all the time. 6 months into Operation Deploy Your Dress, PCS season hit, and 2 of the 5 of us were sent across the country to the East Coast. So that's where we decided to see if this concept could branch. And so during that PCS, we went to Fort Eustis, Virginia. We reached out to some organizations in that area, one being the Spouses Club of Fort Eustis. And we tried to see how Operation Deploy Your Dress could fit into another community. When we got to Fort Eustis, the Spouses Club took us in. We came in under their umbrella. We were able to set up, because we were able to use the Spouses Club for their knowledge of the installation and the area. And then we were also able to reach out to other avenues at Fort Eustis, like social media and television and newspapers and stuff like that. Once we were actually in Fort Eustis, we also reached out to AUSA and to see how they could help us with our growth. So all of that being said, I will go into more detail of how we used all of these resources, but that's just a brief synopsis of how Operation Deploy Your Dress started and how we branched out during that PCS. The great thing about all of what we did during our PCS is it was all done while we were sitting in a car driving across the country on a smartphone. You know, we didn't have to have all of this infrastructure and people around us to do it. We were able to just send emails, messages, reach out, post things on social media, and we were able to continue to grow while sitting in a car driving across the country. So first we are going to talk about connecting with a local group that will be an organizational foundation even when you PCS. So our local group that we connected with, as I said, was the Spouses Club of Fort Eustis. It was great because we were able to be a vendor at the at their events and kind of set up a table to tell their members about what we do and why we do it. So that helped spread the word, because one of our biggest hurdles, and I think a lot of you will see your hurdles that you find, is just spreading the word about your existence. Once people hear about you, they want to be involved, they want to help, but they have to hear about you. So becoming a vendor at their super sign up, or even monthly at their luncheons, you can pay a small fee, a $10 fee or whatever, and be a vendor, have a table and set it up just to give out the information. You can ask to join their mailing list so that when they send stuff out to their members are hearing about you, and maybe they'll then share it with their friends and tell them about what you have going on. It's also a great way to find not only volunteers, but even potential employees for your business or nonprofit, because a lot of times at these spouses clubs, they're run all by volunteers. So they're people who are in the volunteer mindset and ready and willing to help out. So if it's something that maybe if your organization or nonprofit is something that they believe in, maybe they'll jump on board and help out. We had a number of awesome ladies at Fort Eustis jump on board with us and become a huge part of Operation Deploy Your Dress, as well as at Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss, their spouses club, that's where we were able to pull a lot of our volunteers. A lot of times we had more volunteers than what we needed, and that's a great problem to have. So it's a good access to manpower. And also, if you share a common goal with that club or organization that you're trying to get into, like with us, with the spouses clubs, they're about bringing the community in, bringing them together, and helping people out. And that's what we're trying to do, is help people out. So look into a spouses club or some other type of organization like that in your area. Social media. Social media is key whenever you are trying to grow your nonprofit or business. It's oftentimes free. Operation Deploy Your Dress has used Facebook for most of its growth, just to get the word out that we exist. We reach out to people through our main page, where it's, asking for donations, thanking people for donations, telling them, how we're growing and keeping them up to date on what's going on with Operation Deploy Your Dress. But we also make smaller local pages for each of our shops, so that the people who are going to benefit from us can see what our monthly schedule is, if we have any special events coming up, and they will then share your page so other people hear about you, and you want to continue to be active on the page so that you don't get stale and then they just stop following you or whatever. But it's great to have, like I said, a main page that gives out general information about your organization, and then to have smaller local pages that gives more specific information to that area. You can also look, when you're new to an installation, look for different community and military Facebook pages and post about your organization there. We would post monthly and weekly a calendar at Fort Eustis that said, this is our open dates for this month, this is our open dates for this week, come out, see what we have going on. And it just kind of keeps you fresh and in the minds of the people who you're trying to reach. And military spouses like to support other military spouses, so if you join those mil spouses Facebook pages, they'll often share your information and tell their friends about you. It's also important to reach out to the civilian pages too, not just the military spouses pages that are attached to your installation, because those civilian pages, a lot of times in a military community, the civilians that are surrounding that community, they want to help out the military in that area, but they can't help you if they don't know that you exist. So make sure that you reach out to some of the civilian pages as well. And then we also reached out to some of the bigger military-connected social media pages, like the militariespouse.com, the Army Wife Network, the Military Times. those types of things. Just reach out, let them know what you have going on. Sometimes they'll actually pick it up and run with it and do something with it. So it's good to, cast a wide net. Next, we're going to talk about linking up with online networking communities. So there's a great community called Learning and Leaning In, and I kind of like to be a voyeur on this site, and I don't really post a lot on the site, but I read a lot of the posts because you can learn from other organizations and businesses and nonprofits. You can learn from what they've done, what they haven't done, what's worked for them. There's a lot of times a problem that they're having and they'll post it, and so the other people can chime in, and so you can get some ideas of things that are going on and how to maybe implement those into your organization. If you're not comfortable at first, just kind of go on to those types of sites and just read and observe what's going on, because there's no sense in reinventing the wheel if somebody's already doing something for you. Eventually you may start feeling a little bit more comfortable and feeling like you have something of importance to add. So at that point, then you can add, maybe add something that's worked for you and it might help somebody else. And it's just a great way to work together for a common goal and to help each other out so that you guys aren't tripping over the same hurdles that somebody else has tripped over. It's also a great way to connect with other military spouses and other nonprofits so that maybe you guys can collaborate and work together in the future. There's a thing out there called National Council of Nonprofits, and it gives you information state to state specific, so that when you're moving from state to state and post to post, you can pull down information that will pertain to that new location and help you so that you're not having to maybe get into trouble or learn the hard way of something that you should have been doing because you're in a new place and a new location. So that's important to look up whenever you're going to a new location. Just look up the new guidelines and make sure that you're following everything that you're supposed to be. Reaching out on the local and civilian population in your area is a great way to gain visibility. We reached out to newspapers, to news stations like TV news stations and stuff, to radio stations. And I think one of the biggest things is don't be afraid to hear no, because they're not going to broadcast that they told you no, so it's okay if somebody tells you no. Nobody's going to know that. But it's great to reach out and ask, and you never know. Contact a news station and say, hey, I'm new to the area. I have this nonprofit that I work for. Would you be willing to do a story? Or, look up their website online, and you can often find each section of the newspaper is listed. So you'll have the military section, you'll have the fashion section and whatever, and find one that fits your nonprofit and reach out to them and say, hey, I have this going on. Would you be willing to do a story? We reached out to Military Times and said, hey, we're going to be in the DC area and we're doing an event. Would you be willing to do a story? And we were a little bit surprised and very excited whenever they said yes. So you never know until you ask. And like I said, even if they say no, it's not that big of a deal. You move on to the next one. And then reaching out to MWR and other installation agencies is very important. At Fort Eustis, MWR did a huge vendor fair in the spring that was like a military appreciation vendor fair, and they offered all these tables up to different vendors to come in and say, there were Scentsy vendors and LuLaRoe vendors and all that stuff, but then there were also vendors of just organizations that were in the area that were there to help military spouses. And so if you're able to get in on one of those, even if you have to pay a small fee to get in on that, you go shoot for the bigger vendor fairs. Some of them are only like 10 tables big. That's probably not worth your while, but if you shoot for the bigger vendor fairs, you can reach a lot of people. We reached thousands of people that night, and so many people hadn't heard of us, and we had already been in the area for, some months. And so don't think that you're reaching everybody just through social media or just through one avenue. You have to make sure that you're doing a multi-pronged attack here so that you can reach as many people as possible. And just remember that when you are in a military or in a community with strong military ties, the civilians in that community often want to be supportive, but if they don't know about you, they can't support you. They won't read about you on a military Facebook page. They won't read about you in the Post newspaper. So you've got to reach out in those other civilian avenues. And lastly, but certainly not least, and we don't have a slide for this, but this is a big one, is connect with your local AUSA chapter. You can meet people who know the area very well through that chapter. And I'm not just saying this because AUSA is hosting this. This has actually worked for us and been very beneficial to us. At Fort Bliss, when we were first starting, we reached out to the AUSA chapter there, and some of the corporate members set up drop-off locations for our dresses to be gathered. Some of the corporate locations donated items for us to put in our dress shop so that we could set up our dress shop. So they're very, very great resources. So the local corporate members is what I'm talking about. They're great to reach out to because they're businesses in that area that are civilian-run businesses that have joined AUSA because they want to help that installation and the people on that installation. So you can meet these people and reach out to them and see if there's a way that they can help you. But then you can also just meet people who know the area very well, which, they will help you stay connected and be involved in the community, which will be good. And, for us, I just want to tell a short story about a big thing that AUSA and Operation Employ Your Dress did together. I talk about reaching out because it doesn't hurt to ask. Somebody may actually say yes. We reached out to AUSA, I believe it was last fall, and said, hey, we're now on the East Coast. This is what we do. We give dresses away for free. We really want to see how we can spread out. We'd really like to get into the DC area, but we know that maybe a shop isn't, a sustained shop isn't the right thing. Is there something that we can collaborate and do? And with working with the Family Readiness office at AUSA, we came up with doing a pop-up event. So we did a few months of planning with that office, and then this past April, we came up to Arlington and did a great, huge pop-up event in the DC area here in Arlington at the AUSA headquarters. Leading up to that, AUSA helped us with finding drop-off locations for the dresses to collect dresses here. And it was just a great working relationship with them that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't asked. So you just can't be afraid to say no can't be afraid to hear a no, because you can't be afraid to ask, because if you hear a no, it's not that big of a deal. You move on to the next person. So with all that being said, I know I talk fast, so hopefully you got that. I think that it's important that we share what we know. We learn best by participating in community of support and from the experiences, tips, and ideas of others who have been in our shoes and who have done what we've done. So AUSA is ready to advocate on your behalf and also be compiling takeaways from this Facebook Live series to take straight to the top. At this time, we have a few minutes for questions if you guys have any questions. And I think we have one question here. So what advice would you give to new nonprofits on building support and successful relationships like Operation Deploy Your Dress has done with AUSA? And I think my biggest advice is do some research. Find some organizations in your area that have similar goals, similar interests, similar views, and reach out and see if there's something that they want to or can do to collaborate. And like I said many times in this, don't be afraid to ask, because you never know until you ask, and you may get an exciting yes like we have gotten. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. So, not sure if we have any other questions. We will be, if you post questions afterwards, because some people will be watching this after the live part, because this will be posted on the Facebook page. So if you post questions afterwards, we will go back and answer those questions. So feel free to continue to post questions even if this live event is over, and we will go back and answer them. So be sure to download the portable guide for maintaining involvement from afar, and watch this space for more information and resources. Leave a comment below over the next week to be entered for a door prize. Winners will be announced next Wednesday right here on the Family Readiness page.